Everything boils down to courage. Do you feel paralyzed? Like constantly stuck between two parts of you? The part of you that wants to change, act, that wants to feel powerful and gets angry at you for not acting. And the other part of you that feels too scared to move, paralyzed in fear, and stuck under the burden of shame and guilt and regret and fear. Do you feel powerless to change? It all comes down to courage. I think these days we tend to confuse courage with motivation. We think we're unmotivated, and we watch motivational videos and content to spark inspiration and motivation to get us to act, right? But it's not about motivation. It's about courage. Do you have the courage to ignore all the fears, doubts, anxieties? And courage isn't a feeling. It's a mindset. It's the resolve you have after making a firm decision, right? Let's say it's a hot summer day and you want to jump into the water from a high up place. You feel the feelings of fear and anxiety, right? You know the water is cold and you know that you're high up. So you feel the fear. But what makes you jump? What makes you jump into the water regardless of that fear? It's the split-second decision you make to jump regardless of what you feel, right? And that split-second decision to jump anyway is the courage. The courage is like a switch in your brain that courage is like a switch in your brain. And once you switch it on, you have to ignore the fear, the doubts, the anxieties, right? You have to ignore everything that is preventing you from acting. And it's not that they disappear, it's that they no longer have power over you because you decided otherwise. You decided that your fear wasn't going to stop you, and so the fear sort of takes a seat and lessens its power over you because you decide that you have more power than the fear. You decide that you're going to act anyway. And that is the courage. We need courage to be confident. We need courage to act. We need courage to face our fears. We need courage to do things we've never done before. We don't need motivation. We don't need motivation to do it. We just need the courage. We just need to make the decision to do it regardless of the feelings that come up. We just need to jump into the water, right? And I think exposure therapy is actually a form of incrementally increasing your courage to the point where you feel stronger. You feel strong enough to face your fears, right? Exposure therapy isn't about reducing fear. Exposure therapy is about increasing courage, increasing your courage and your strength to face bigger and bigger obstacles. And I think we have to approach life in a similar way. We have to approach life with the exposure therapy approach, right? We need to slowly, incrementally increase the obstacles and increase the courage it takes to overcome those obstacles, so that we slowly believe in ourselves, slowly realize the power we had all along, realize the strength we had in us all along, and that we are powerful enough, we are strong enough to overcome any obstacle, any challenge that comes our way. And that also requires shifting away from the victim mentality and having the courage to take responsibility for your life. We can alchemize our shame, our guilt, our regret into courage, into existential courage. And when you've been paralyzed for so long, when you've been in the sort of victim mentality for so long, it's hard to muster the courage for the obstacles that you actually want to face, right? Because those obstacles seem insurmountable. They seem overwhelmingly big. So we need to slowly expose ourselves to more and more courage. We need to find the smaller obstacles and muster the courage to overcome the small obstacles first and slowly increase the size of our obstacles, right? Slowly increase the size of our challenges so that we can develop the skill of courage. Because I think courage is a skill that we need to develop and strengthen. And modern society, technology, the systems we have put in place have actually reduced that skill of courage in us. We no longer have courage as a developed skill among the population. School doesn't teach us courage. Workplaces don't teach us courage. I guess it depends on the type of work you're doing, but school doesn't really teach us how to be courageous, right? It teaches us how to follow the rules. And when we can't change, when we can't act on our desires, we think it's because we're lazy, we're lacking willpower or motivation. But no, we're just lacking the courage to face our fears, to face uncertainty, to face the unknown. And once you can act on your courage, once you can courageously implement the things you say you want to implement, it increases your self-esteem. It increases your confidence. I think the biggest difference between high self-esteem and low self-esteem is courage, right? I remember when I mustered up the courage to solo travel for the first time. I decided, you know what? I've been wanting to travel to Korea for years now. I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to make the decision. I'm going to buy the plane ticket, and I'll worry about all the fears and anxieties later, right? So a few years ago, I just made the decision to buy a plane ticket to Korea and stay there for almost 2 months, 1.5 months. And when I bought the plane ticket, I had mustered up the courage, and I had ignored all the possible fears and anxieties I would feel before, getting on the plane. So once I had mustered up the courage to solo travel to Korea, I was able to figure it out. I was able to figure out how to go, where to live, how to travel on my own, right? Once you muster up the courage, you can figure out things along the way. Everything is figure-outable. You just need the courage to decide and act on your decision. So once I went to Korea, I felt this surge of confidence that I didn't know was in me. My self-esteem had increased because I had finally trusted myself. I had finally acted on my desires. And I was able to prove to myself that I had the strength and the power to do what I wanted to do. And that courage increased my confidence and self-esteem in such a way that my family members noticed. Once my solo travel ended, that confidence and self-esteem stayed with me for a good few months, right? And my parents noticed, my relatives noticed. I was more confident. And if I had kept up the momentum and continued to act courageously, then my self-esteem and confidence would have just continued to increase. But for whatever reason, I decided not to continue with the momentum. I decided to not continue with the courageous acts of acting on my desires. And that confidence and self-esteem soon fizzled out, right? So it all boils down to courage. And once you can muster up the courage, you need to keep the momentum of slowly increasing your courage, acting more and more courageously to change your life for the better, to increase your confidence and self-esteem, to increase the possibilities, right? To increase the opportunities and possibilities that you have to live your ideal life. It's kind of funny because with more and more technology that is supposed to make our lives easier, our lives have actually become more and more complex. Living in the world as an adult right now is becoming more and more complex. And to adapt to this more complex life, we need more and more courage to adapt and change. But ironically, these complexities, these technologies have killed our courage in a way, have increased our victim mentality. We try to avoid the responsibilities of life. We think we're powerless against all the systems that have been put in place. We think that we're powerless to change our circumstances because so many of our circumstances are out of our control. But regardless of the circumstances, if we can accept responsibility for our own lives, how we react to the circumstances around us, if we can just face the responsibility that we have, accept that it's our own responsibility to live our own lives, we can slowly act on our courage. We can expose ourselves to more and more courage and realize that we have the power, we have the strength to live our own lives. The more obstacles and challenges we can overcome, the more we can become aware of our strength and power to overcome those challenges, right? We can't be aware of how strong we are unless we overcome the challenges we are faced with. And overcoming those challenges requires courage. It kind of reminds me of the cowardly lion in The Wizard of Oz. He wanted courage without realizing that he was courageous the whole way. The lion wanted courage, and he didn't even realize how strong he was. He didn't realize he was a lion. And even though he thought he was cowardly, he displayed courage throughout the journey of going to the Wizard of Oz, right? So the Wizard of Oz didn't really give him courage. He gave him a medal to honor the courage he mustered up, the strength he realized so far. So we have to be as courageous as the cowardly lion and act despite our fears, our doubts, our anxieties. We have to act despite how powerless we feel, despite how hopeless we feel. we've all kind of become cowards. Even the cowardly lion is more courageous than a lot of us, right? We've become like this generation of cowards. And using the word coward, we don't really like using the word coward, right? But I think that's the truth. We are more cowardly. We have become more cowardly because of our and I think the word coward is a bit harsh, but it is true. I think as a generation, we have become more cowardly. We cower in fear, in hopelessness, in powerlessness. And we don't realize that we have the strength, we have the power, we have the abilities, we have the agency to change our lives. And once we have the courage to change our lives, we become aware of the strength and power that was in us all along, and that increases our confidence, that increases our self-esteem, our self-image, our self-belief and trust in ourselves. And that changes our identity. So, if you've been looking for motivation, if you've been looking for any piece of information that might fill in the void and finally get you to act, finally get you to change your life for the better, finally get you to realize your power and strength, it's already within you. You already have access to courage. And courage is the only thing you need to start. And if the challenges and obstacles before you appear overwhelmingly big, too big to overcome, make them smaller. Make the challenges and obstacles smaller. Do some exposure therapy towards your goals, your obstacles and challenges, right? You don't need to wait for the perfect time. You don't need to wait until you have enough energy and focus and motivation. That time will not come. All you need to do is make a split-second decision and act courageously while ignoring all the possible negative emotions and thoughts that might come up. Make the decision, muster up the courage, and do what you think you can do. Do what you think you can figure out, right? Whatever you think you can figure out, muster up the courage and do it. And consistency isn't about putting your all or giving your all. It isn't about doing 100% every single day. It's about showing up with courage and doing whatever you can do to the best of your abilities every single day. If today you can only do 10% and 10% is the best you can do today, do that. Tomorrow, maybe you can do 20%. Your 100% every single day is relative. It's relative. There isn't a objective 100%, right? You just need to muster up the courage to show up every single day. Show up and actually do the the best you can do, given your energy levels, your circumstances, your focus, right? And once you make the decision and act on the courage, you'll realize it's actually a lot easier than you thought. It's actually a lot easier to ignore the fears. It's a lot easier to just do. And that means we were actually never afraid. Fear, doubts, anxieties were actually a facade, an illusion that we were believing in, right? Fear, doubts, anxieties aren't us, aren't a part of us. They're just coping mechanisms, survival mechanisms that the brain tries to get you to believe so that you can survive, right? The brain is just trying to keep you safe. The body is just trying to survive, right? And if you believe in the fear, if you believe in the powerlessness, the doubts, the anxieties, the brain will think there was something to be afraid about. The brain will think, oh, if we're actually avoiding that thing, it actually must be scary. It must actually be risky and dangerous to us. So let's continue avoiding it. But it's up to you if you want to listen to that fear. It's up to you if you want to listen to the doubts and anxieties. Deep down, at your core, you are not afraid. At your core, you have so much love and zest for life. At your core, you want to express yourself fully. You want to live fully. You do not want to be constricted and limited to your fears, your anxieties, your doubts, your beliefs, right? At your core, you are very powerful. You have the strength, you have the resilience, and you have the courage to live however you want to live. So all it takes is exposing yourself slowly to bigger and bigger challenges and obstacles. Starting with small obstacles, small challenges, mustering up the courage to overcome small challenges, and slowly building the trust within yourself, the belief within yourself that you can figure things out, that you have the strength and power to overcome challenges. And once you believe in yourself, once you trust yourself more and more, you will be able to overcome bigger and bigger challenges. And you might even start looking forward to challenges. You might start loving challenges. And once you start loving challenges, nothing can stop you. You're unstoppable. You have the confidence, you have the self-esteem, self-trust to do anything, regardless of what challenges come up. And it all starts with courage. You don't need motivation. You just need courage. Courage is so underrated. This journey that I have been on since last August has taught me how important courage is. And you don't really have to think about courage if you're consistently acting on courage, right? If you're consistently making decisions and acting upon them, you are being courageous, whether you're aware of it or not. And looking back, I've realized how courageous I've become. And although I do have struggles, and although I do feel like something's missing, and I definitely need to go to therapy, I have noticed the difference in my self-esteem and my self-confidence. I feel more confident. I feel more capable. I feel stronger and more powerful to control my life, to change things however I want them to change. I feel I have the strength and power to overcome any challenge, any obstacle that comes my way. That doesn't mean I have no fear. I still have fear. But I finally feel like I have more courage than fear. I finally feel like my courage is strong enough to push through the fears, doubts, anxieties, and act on my desires. So all it takes is one courageous act, and then another, and then another, and then another. You can start small and slowly build the momentum. You don't need motivational videos. You just need courage. And I wish you all the best. I wish you courage. I wish you courage to act, to live. You got this. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and checking out my other videos. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Take care. Bye.